What's up, everybody? It's Ryan from mtmmix.com again, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video that's going to dive into something that a lot of people will overlook, and that is how I properly mix my snare drum when I have stems that I'm working on for a hip-hop record. Snare drum in hip-hop is probably one of the more important instruments. Hip-hop started with just break beats, so the snare drum being one of the instruments in those break beats, it makes it very, very important, and it's very good to have a good practice and know how to mix the snare drum properly in accordance to the beat. So without further ado, I'm going to hop on the screen. I'm going to show you guys how to get a hard-hitting snare drum, something that'll crack through the speakers and give a good overall aggressive feel for your hip-hop records. Alright, so here we are in the session. There's sort of a lot going on in the session. The stems are pretty simple. I muted the main vocal. This is a vocal bus right here. And this is what's going to essentially make the song, but I'm going to mute it just for the sake of the example. So these are the stems, the track outs to the beat. Right here, I'm going to mute this. This is a little intro sample. And the snare track is going to be right here. For this example, I'm going to be bringing you into a song that I already mixed for the example. And in this specific example, I also did the effect that I'm going to be explaining on the kick drum. But this can be done just for the snare drum. I used it for the example on the kick, just because in this situation I thought that the kick needed a little bit of more punch as well. Whenever you need something to have more punch and grit and aggression to it, this is the effect to use. So let me go into it. I'm going to play the beat for you before and after the effect that I'm going to be doing. So let me play it for you. Just listen specifically for the snare, and in this case the kick drum. It's going to have the effect on it at first, and then we're going to take it off so you can hear the difference.
Now what you mean frames back on that bull? I never left this.
Cool, so you could hear right off the bat, his vocals came in a little bit, but right off the bat you could hear that there's a pretty big difference. This is the send bus that I was bypassing throughout. The send effect is what is going to cause this effect. So essentially the effect that we're doing is something called parallel compression. Another word for it is New York compression. Another word for it is transient enhancers. There's a lot of plugins that will do this with just a single plugin, but doing it manually will create more control over the sound that you're going for. So essentially what you want to do, in this case, I routed my snare and my kick drum to this bus. I'm going to call this snare kick. I routed it to this bus, and from there, I sent it out to another bus. So what it's essentially doing is taking the signal from the snare track and the kick track, summing it onto one track, so that way I could do any processing on this. If I wanted to do EQs or anything, I could affect both the kick and the snare. And then from this summed up track, I sent it to another bus, which is my parallel compression bus. So there's a lot of routing going on here. I have, just to reiterate again, go over it one more time, I have my snare and kick, individual stems, going to a snare/kick auxiliary bus. This auxiliary bus that has the snare and the kick on it is being sent to a parallel compression bus. So what this means is I'm still getting my normal signal of my kick and my snare being outputted to my main outs, but I'm also sending that signal from my kick and my snare to bus 5/6 in this situation, which is my parallel compression track. And what I did on the parallel compression track is I threw a compressor on there. You could use any compressor in this situation. And what you want to do in a parallel compression type of track is you want to abuse the settings. That's really the easiest way to describe it. Threshold will definitely be maxed out, if not almost maxed out. So you kind of want to go by flavor with this. In this situation, I did have it maxed out. Your mix is definitely going to be 100% wet. You don't want any of the dry signal going in. If you actually do that, you might run into some phasing issues. Output could be adjusted accordingly as far as what the levels are reading on this bus. Punch, you could disregard this. This is specific to the H compressor by Waves. So definitely don't pay attention to that. The attack is what I want to focus on. So the attack, you want your initial transient to hit through. So you have to adjust your track. You have to adjust your attack to where the transient will sneak through, but you'll be compressing the rest of it. You can bring this to be a little bit fast, but everything overall will sound crushed. A lot of people tend to go for this. It will create sort of that dirty drum break kind of sound, which some people do like to go for. But a lot of the times, I like to have that initial transient be clean, uncompressed, and then the rest of the sound source or the sample will be compressed and brought out and punched into your face. So the ratio, anywhere from 2 to 6, I would say. Again, use to taste. And release, it will be specific to the individual sample that you're using. Try to time your release to whatever sample. So if your snare drum is 1 second long, set it to 1 second. If it's half a second long, set it to half a second, and etc. So I'm just going to play this for you. This will be bypassed. I'll actually bypass the send so we don't get into phasing. And I'm just going to do exactly what I did earlier, but this time you'll be able to watch this virtual meter sort of run, and you'll get a feel for what exactly it's doing.
Now what you mean?
So right off the bat, it's such a big difference. You could hear the crunchiness, the crisp, the punch that is going on with both the kick and the snare in this situation, since I'm sending both to this auxiliary bus. But this is really it. This is what's called parallel compression, New York compression, transient enhancement. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I know this tutorial didn't go too in-depth with the settings, but I kind of want to leave that to you guys. I kind of want to take on this new sense of this channel where I'm not telling you guys what to do, but rather pointing you guys in the right direction, if that makes any sense. So leave it in the comments. Any questions that you guys leave, I will answer. I promise you that. If you just want to leave any comments that aren't questions, that's cool too. Just subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Let me unmute this vocal and play this song out for you.
Hey, dog. Hey, man. Hey, tell him I ain't got it, man.
Everywhere I be, I'm spotted, 'cause they all see I got it. Drinks on me, leave your wallet, club said it's over.